Hi and welcome to my art talk today. Thank you for coming to watch it. I've been discussing the presentation I gave and probably overwhelmed people at the Pacifica Graduate Institute on a B-time meeting one evening. And I've made it much more accessible here on my art talk because I've divided it up into smaller bites while still giving you plenty to think about. And I'd like to come back to it. It's the talk about fairy tales and art, why they're important, and criteria that we have for judging them, or judging art, any art, really. And of course, I have to do this with using a few bits of jargon, as they call it, and they say every time I do anything, they say, don't use any jargon. But there's no point in dumbing it down. There are just some things that are difficult. And then you just have to learn them. And then it's worth it because you know more after than you did before, if I can say that properly. So, sorry about that. I'll start my little talk now. So, one of the things I know I keep saying, it comes around, it's the same thing again and again, but I know if I keep repeating it, maybe there'll be someone out there, one person, who will remember it. A work of art is open and free. That's another criteria for judging a work of art. Great art opens our eyes for something we couldn't see before. Small art only changes the shape of what is, said Martin Heidegger. Art is always about form, about the openness of form, free from predetermination. An open system of signs, as I said last time, free from purpose. Being open, the work of art can be interpreted in a myriad of ways, none of which exclude the other. That's really open. There are different types of infinity. And the philosopher Georg Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel, if I can say it all his names properly, who was alive from 1770 to 1831, he said there's a primary infinity, that's linear, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. And he didn't like this one. He refers to a form of infinity that is circular, following a spiral movement. So a work of art has an internal infinity that refers only to itself. This is the metaphysical element inherent in every work of art. You could argue this is the archetype that is in the work of art, if you want to use language from fairy tales. The viewer makes what you want to view, so you're looking at it, yourself. The viewer is in the painting and can observe him or herself. There must be space in the work for you. This is the problem with hyper-realistic painting. There's no space for you in the painting. It's all been said. A work of art is always the expression of an artistic idea that can be found by the viewer or the interpreter. There's got to be something that's kind of more open and free that you can see, that you can add your little bit of self to, so you can enter into the picture. Fairy tales are always open. We're not given many details. Everybody can illustrate the tale themselves. We can take various positions. Am I the princess or am I Baba Yaga? These days probably more like Baba Yaga, but hey, there you go. I rather like her. A fairy tale is open and free. Finding yourself in the other and feeling at home therein. This is the basic movement of the spirit, whose being is the return to itself from the other, said Georg Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel, the same philosopher I mentioned last time. So that's the movement of our spirit. I enter into a work of art with my spirit, and when my spirit comes back to me, I can think about what is it that spoke to me in that work of art. And now I'm different because I now have that work of art in me too. Without art, we would not be able to survive the everyday, because art stretches the ordinary and shows the possible, that goes above and beyond the mundane. This is a case for feeling happy, said Hans Blumenberg, who was alive until 1996, philosopher. So without art, we would not be able to survive the everyday. This is something I find very depressing, because more and more people live in homes without painting or without even a simple print. It's better than nothing. You need more than the everyday. You need a room you can express your wishes and dreams in. You need a room that takes you away from the mundane. In a time when we constantly feel threatened by the big bad wolf, this is more important than ever to turn to the beautiful, the true, and the good. Because the man-made rational world, I'm talking about the rational world, art is definitely the irrational world. It doesn't mean it's lesser than the rational world, it just means it's the other side of the coin. The rational world is finite. The world of fantasy, imagination, enchantment is infinite in its diversity, just as every one of us is different. This corresponds to the idea of infinity within us humans. And that's comforting, I think. We've got an infinite source out there that we can tap into with our imaginations. Works of art, or fairy tales, enable us to immerse ourselves in worlds far removed from reality. Art can open up new possibilities and freedoms for us. That's actually my quote. I had to read it because I want to make sure I said it properly. Works of art, or fairy tales, enable us to immerse ourselves in worlds far removed from reality. Art, which is why I started painting fairy tales, art can open up new possibilities and freedoms for us. Because by looking at a work of art, we might suddenly understand something we didn't understand before. This, of course, also applies to reading or music, any of the art forms. But our first sense, what we see first, are always images. Therefore, finally, I'd like to conclude my little row of talks about fairy tales. By means of colour, shape and movement, art determines what makes us human. This humanity always and only points to freedom. Therefore, the questions pertaining to art must always also be open and free to interpretation. Not made by nature, but leading up to and beyond nature. Even when I'm painting, inspired directly by nature, I've got the flowers in front of me. I'm adding myself to the picture. I'm not trying to make an exact copy of what I see in front of me. In this way, art and fairy tales protect us from the big bad wolf, these days the market or the media. Art is a reflection of humanity in its myriad of shapes and forms. We need to be able to enter the work and find ourselves in it. We learn by asking questions, like Socrates. We need to create ourselves in freedom. The subject is free because we can reflect our thoughts and actions. By doing so, we create ourself. So by reflection, by thinking of, what did I think then? Did I do the right thing? Would I do it differently this time? We learn. The self must be formed by the individual, a combination of mind, love, spirit, belief, and will, work. Art and fairy tales help us learn about ourselves, reflect and understand what moves our mind, brightens our spirit, and makes our will work. I'm going to talk a little bit more next time about the three powers. We have three powers all within us, everybody. We have the power of movement, the power of speech, and the power of art. We need all three. It doesn't automatically mean we're artists, but we need all three. That's coming up next time though. So thank you for listening to this. Drop a like down below if you enjoyed it. Follow me. Subscribe to my art letter if you want to know more. Have a pot around my website and see some of the pictures there. Decorate your home. Go into a museum and be inspired. And now you have a few criteria for maybe discussing whether this picture fulfills these things for you. And hopefully your partner can discuss it with you, because it's always about discussion. It's always about communication. We are all about communication. Thank you. Bye bye.